Hey everyone, my name is Lizzie and today we'll be talking about how to achieve those earthy, more experienced, aged flavors in winemaking. First of all, this is very hard to achieve. Usually when you're new to winemaking, you tend to have these fruity flavors, and this comes from esters, which is a chemical reaction between the acids of the yeast and alcohol. So when they mix together, esters form, and these can smell or taste like honey, like apple. It's a little sweet aftertaste that are fruity, and it's a good thing to have. However, if you want to have more dry wine, less sweet, this is achievable with the few aspects that I will talk about in this video. And the first aspect is aging in oak barrels. We know what they say, wine gets better with time, and aging in oak barrels is one of the main ways to age your wine. And the reason why oak barrels is because the wine is in contact with the wood, and this will affect the wine flavors with time. However, it takes a lot of space to have these wood barrels, and it could be pricey. Therefore, we have a cheaper alternative and one that's more suitable for people who live in regular size homes. We have oak chips, and I have a batch right here. Here is what the oak chips look like inside. Therefore, it's really pieces of wood. However, I would suggest getting those that are specifically made for home brewing and winemaking. And it gives you instruction in the back to wash and to clean your wood. Therefore, no toxins will get into your final product. And they're Napoleon oak chips. So oak chips go into three different categories. We have French oak chips, American oak chips, and Hungarian oak chips. And since the brand of these oak chips are called Napoleon, I would assume they're French. However, it says made in the USA. So let's distinguish the three types of oak chips. We have first the French oak chips, which have sweeter flavors like vanilla. We have the American oak chips, which have harsher flavors. And if you want a mix of both, you have the Hungarian oak chips that are in between. Based on the flavor that you'd like, you can toast these oak chips, because based on this graph here, we have different temperatures of oak chips that yield to different flavors. And you can try to achieve this in your home brew by first toasting your oak chips and then adding them to your jar. One thing I would say about the oak chips is do not add too much, because last time I added oak chips into my fermentation, I toasted the oak chips inside my barbecue. Once they were at a decent temperature, I added them into my finalized product. So this is after fermentation. And once I tasted it after a couple of weeks, it just tasted like wood. It was way past the earthy aged flavors. It just tasted like trees. Therefore, make sure that the quantity of oak chips you're adding into your home brew is not too much and that it affects your flavor in a pleasant way. However, oak chips inside your beer or wine does not taste the same as in barrel. Another aspect that gives you this sort of earthy, more experienced flavors are not yeast. So I know that yeast affects flavor. However, it's not applicable here. Instead, we have the skins of grapes. So we have the skins of grapes, seeds, stems, and this will affect your tannin levels. These are applicable when making red wine, not white wine. Therefore, red wine will be more bitter, because more tannins mean more bitter. It means drier wine, and this characteristic is more applicable for red wine versus white wine. However, if you do not want to go to the grocery store to buy these grapes and remove the seeds, remove the skins, remove the stem, this could be a long process to mash them all inside a bucket. You can buy powder, and this powder is tannin powder. You could just add this in your home brew before your fermentation, and your tannins will be present inside your alcohol. As for tannins, someone recently told me about adding tea inside their fermenting jar, and tea has bitter flavors. Therefore, I'm curious to know if by adding a bag of tea inside your fermentation, will this add tannins? Can this significantly affect your wine? Drop a comment below if you've ever made alcohol by adding a bag of tea inside your fermenting jar. I'd be curious to know. Another ingredient that you can add into your winemaking are young oak leaves. If you want to achieve these earthy, more experienced flavors, they're also impacted by oxygen. So when it comes to aerating wine, having more oxygen in your winemaking softens your tannins. Therefore, if you want to have more tannins, avoid oxygen from entering your batch. And this can be done with a siphon, this thin tube. You can avoid splashing, sloshing. This will give you more tannins inside your wine. Personally, I prefer sweeter wine. However, drier wine or wine with more tannin is always good if you want to pair it with certain type of food like steak, for example. However, the choice is yours. And another aspect that can affect the flavors of your wine, so in order to have more aged flavors, what you can do is control the temperature, because temperature control maximizes tannin extraction during fermentation, and it's good to keep your temperature from 21 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. Keep it inside that range and your tannins will be more noticeable in your wine. However, one thing I would really recommend is to watch your temperature, whether or not you want more tannins, because a too cold fermentation versus a too hot fermentation will affect the flavor of your final product, and this can lead to off flavors. And for other tips and tricks, book a class. The link is in the description below. We'll guide you throughout your fermentation process. And if you found this video valuable, share with a friend. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.